Hello there, everyone. You know me, of course. I'm John Doe, and I really hope that I know you too. Now, today we're in another park. Different from the last video, we're in a different park. It's a really nice one here in my local neighborhood here in Tokyo. And today we're drinking something really bottom basement kind of beer, right? It's called barrel beer. Now, I'm not joking about this, right? They should call it bottom barrel beer. But it gets the job done. It's only like 125 yen. At least where I buy it at. So let's crack that open real quick. Take us a drink before we get started here. Because we are drinking with a Marxist, of course. Oh, yeah. It's got a sweet taste to it. Nice change. So, what we're going to talk about here is the issue of building class consciousness among first world workers. Now, I want to thank a lot of the commenters on the last video for bringing some of this up. And I read a lot of those comments, and I thought that was a very interesting discussion that many of you had. Now, the point I want to make here is about tactics with building this class consciousness. Now, one of the common tactics we use is to combine the first world worker with third world worker, is to point out to the first world worker the strife and the struggle of the third world worker. Now, this is proven to be a flawed tactic, but I would disagree. It's not a flawed tactic. What is flawed is the way we are presenting it. So we need to restructure this tactic. Now, what we typically do up until now has been to say, look, 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 look. Look at the third world, how bad they got it. Shouldn't you support them? That's flawed in presentation. Because what this has done is to make the first world worker protective, very protective, and very reactionary towards what they have. And because they have these certain things, they do not understand why. The reason they have these things is because the exploitation the first world capitalist does to the third world worker. So again, this is not a flawed tactic to point this out, to build this class consciousness and to build this togetherness, this camaraderie that we keenly need. It's our presentation. So what I'm going to present here is a change in structure about how we go about this. Instead of simply pointing out, look, 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 how bad they got it, let's stop doing that as much. Let's combine that with some other things. Now, I'm involved in a labor movement. Not as heavily, or I don't have as much leadership as other people do. And the length of time I've been heavily involved is not as long as others. But there's something I've learned. Because I'm as much as an observer of the labor movement as I am a participant. And there's something that I've noticed works well. That helps to build class consciousness among the first world worker. And helps them to understand how they are exactly the same as the third world worker. Simply put, it's confidence. Yeah, something we have not really talked or thought about amongst Marxists. Building confidence with the first world workers. We have to give them the strength to really stand up and fight hard. So how do we do that as a Marxist when we involve ourselves in trade unions? Well, we have to be a bit bombastic. We have to know how to put on a good show. We have to kind of do like some showmanship. When we go to like collective bargaining meetings, or we participate in street actions, we have to present ourselves as strong against these evil bastards who are coming down hard on the worker, oppressing the worker. So we have to be better at showmanship. Give you a good example. Something I typically do when I will go to like a CB, a collective bargaining, and I'll sit there. And usually you have to like name yourself, because that's key. You have to be transparent in these things. Something I do as a Marxist, which really gets the workers behind me and gets them to go, wow, this guy is a hard ass, this guy is really, really, going to fight, he's one of us, is when they say you need to introduce yourself, I stand up instead of sitting down. And I say, my name is John Doe, and I am a union man. A bit of roughness in my voice. That gets all those workers to look at me. And in their head, they think, wow, that's some power. That's some power of labor. They say proudly, I am a worker. I'm on this side. I'm not with you at all. That type of showmanship is so important in building confidence with these first world workers, because they are terrified. Because they know what they have. We've pointed out to them enough. They're clear. Their salaries, their wages are way higher than third world workers. Their working conditions are far better when compared to third world workers. But first world workers also know that all these niceties, these, we say, kind of like, little givens that the capitalist class gives these first world workers to keep them in line, to keep them from gaining class consciousness. Those things are eroding currently in the first world at a rapid pace recently, especially the past couple of years. So they're scared of that. They're scared to stand up. They're scared to be strong. So when you show them some strength, that gives them the confidence to do the things that third world workers also do. So that's key to add to pointing out how the third world worker has it. The first world worker needs more confidence to stand up and fight harder. Not only protect what they have now, that's currently eroding, but to fight for more. To fight for more control at the workplace. Now, the second thing we need to add in our attempt to build class consciousness among first world workers is simply this. Education. Okay, which is something we don't engage in enough. We need to put a more concerted effort into educating the first world worker how they are effectively exploited exactly the same way as a third world worker. It does not benefit us at all to sit there and blame the first world worker, to say you are a co-conspirator of exploitation. That turns them against us. That turns them over to the side of reactionary social democrats and reformists, which we don't want. We want them on our side. We want them to see that what we are promoting is better, a better way. So we really need to stop this shaming of first world workers. It's ineffective. We need to educate them, show them how the way they are exploited is basically the same way that a third world worker is exploited. Just the degree of exploitation is different. So let's review a little bit. Our tactic of pointing out how third world workers are exploited is not flawed, only the presentation. How do we restructure our presentation? We do that through one, building confidence among first world workers by being a bit of a showman. Like Fidel Castro, was always good at putting on a good show. To rally people behind the cause of communism and socialism. We must not be afraid to practice that. And number two, instead of shaming the first world worker, we need to educate the first world worker on what is exploitation and help them to understand that you are not a co-conspirator of exploitation. You are the exploitated yourself in the first world. So let's try to work on this idea a bit and hope to develop this, to make this tactic stronger and to make it better. And as always, this is me, John Doe. If you have not subscribed to the main channel, I'll try to put a link down here somewhere so you can get access to that. And as always, you've been drinking with a Marxist.